Welcome back to the Eagle Countdown. We're continuing our conversation and learning from members of Congress. So we just had a visit with Senator Ted Cruz, and already the first two nights of the Eagle Countdown are up on YouTube. You can click on the links. We'll put them over at eaglecountdown.com, and you can see them. So this is all this content we're making available. It's a conversation in a lot of ways. Representative Warren Davidson, he represents the 8th Congressional District in Ohio. He's a former military man. I was just telling me a few of those stories. In Phyllis Schlafly's office, the late Phyllis Schlafly's office, there's a piece of the Berlin Wall, and we were recounting that you were stationed in Germany when the wall came down back then. So many Americans had spent so long fighting the communist Soviet threat, being aware of that. That was such a symbolic moment. So we'll get to that. But John wanted to tell us, we were talking, that Congressman Davidson got a rousing... Tell me this story. What was this?
Well, when the president came to, I don't know if it was in your district, but very close, outside Dayton.
He
called out your name a couple days ago, and the audience cheered.
Well, it was really exciting. I got to fly on Air Force One. Anytime you're spending time with the president, it's a high-quality time. Always laughing. He's a great guy to be around, and the crowd just absolutely loved him.
So was that Toledo? Was he in Toledo?
He was in Dayton and Toledo. So we flew from here, stopped in Dayton, flew to Toledo, and then back.
So did you have all your buddies in the crowd cheering for you? Why were you the loudest? You said he was one of the loudest. Round of applause. What was going on there?
The loudest, let's be clear, was president. Right?
Okay,
the president, not me. But I did have some good supporters there, and it was pretty humbling.
Now, you came out, you did military time, then you ran your own business, manufacturing. So, one of the things we're talking about in this Eagle Countdown is we got sort of a through line through all of our guests. And I wrote this book, Promises Made, Promises Kept. In 3.5 years, the Trump administration, there's all these specific examples of how this administration kept their promise on policy. And we ask everybody this question to start out. What's your favorite promise kept that the administration did when they got in? You've been in since 16. You mentioned a special, so you were in a little bit before the 16 election. So you were in. What's your favorite thing that this president has kept his word on?
Well, I love the way you're phrasing it, promises made, promises kept. And you go back to when I was stationed in Germany. The first unit I was in was, you have these unit mottos, and it said deeds, not words, right?
Right.
And I think that this is one of the dynamics. A lot of times you'll see people get upset with the president because, his words or his tweet or this or that. But the reality is, when you look at his deeds, the policies that he's done, for conservatives especially, we looked at a lot of people in 16 kind of said, I don't know, is he really going to do all these great things he's promising? He's promising all the right things.
Right.
And there was a little ambivalence, right? But now you don't have to speculate. He's delivered on promise after promise after promise. And for me, the big one is religious freedom. And so in February of 17, right after he took office, there was a Department of Justice draft memo on religious liberty that was circulating. And it was getting pushed back, and everybody's losing their mind. And there were people pushing the president, including some Republicans. You want to back away from this. It's toxic and everything. And frankly, we drafted a letter in Congress. Our office led the letter. We had 50 colleagues join it. We sent it to the president in April. And in May, he went public with his executive order directing the Department of Justice to push all of the, executive branch to follow through on defense of religious liberty. And you go down that list. It's a long list of what has happened. One of the big ones was Health and Human Services on defending conscience, where you're protecting the civil liberties and creating whistleblower protections for people who are being forced to participate in procedures against their religious beliefs and values. Obviously with Sam Brown back at the State Department, his wins on the bringing hostages home, with contracting. Heck, the Obama administration wanted to stop bringing in outside Catholic priests because it's a federal contracting principle and they can't defend their new views on gay marriage, for example. Big wins on foster care or adoption. And there's a case that we're working on an amicus brief for right now that's going to go before the Supreme Court on November 4th. Where in Philadelphia, Catholic Social Services was prohibited from continuing to participate in foster care and adoption, frankly, because they didn't have the city's view on marriage.
We're talking with Congressman Warren Davidson. I should point out on his lapel, we have our Eagles, and he's got his Ranger pin. He's an Army Ranger, not just an Army guy, Army Ranger, and also the feet, the pro-life feet. John, a question or comment?
Well, Warren, I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you represent the district that was formerly held by Speaker Boehner? And he, I think, resigned early in the middle of a term because he no longer enjoyed the support of the conference, basically. And now you have that seat. I wonder if you have any thoughts about that and and in general the leadership of the Republicans in the House.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a big honor to come in. I mean, frankly, in 2015, when he resigned in September of 2015, like everyone, I was watching the news, and you kind of wonder, well, I wonder who's going to be the next Speaker of the House. And in my case, I also wondered who was going to be the next member of Congress. Had no idea I would end up being a candidate at that point.
Right.
And so, I filed on December 16th. So the race had already been well underway with established candidates. I got in 10 minutes before the filing deadline. And frankly, at that point, if you would have asked me the difference between the Freedom Caucus and the Steel Caucus, I would have told you one deals with steel and the other one probably does something about freedom. So I don't think you'd be more politically green than me. He was obviously well liked to be the member of Congress for 25 years from our district. But probably the biggest feedback I heard was, even from Democrats, it was like, yeah, it's pretty cool our member is the Speaker of the House. But with the demands of national level leadership, there was a demand in the district to be present. And so, go back to your comment, hearing cheers from the crowd, just being present and spending time with constituents has really been a big honor.
He's got a book out this week, John. Did you see that? John Boehner's got a book out, I think, next Thursday on his. I forget the title is. I forget the title now, but he's on the front cover with a glass of red wine and a cigar.
Cigarette. I would assume a cigarette and red wine. They're pretty signature.
Yeah. We got a quick comment. Someone's on it. If people want to make comments on Eagle Countdown all across the country, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or Periscope, in the comment section, our folks will pick them up. And someone sent a comment, said that her children went to public school. I guess they don't anymore, and they were asked not to pray before lunch. That the student was asked not to pray before lunch, and there was this antagonism, she's saying, to religious liberty, religious freedom. I think a lot of people feel that, right? I mean, it's we've had 50 or 60 years of sort of secularism continue to roll over us. How do you think the public schools, the Republican caucus in the House, Senate, at the local level, they've led on some aspects of, say, school choice, but not really, right? They haven't been willing to say, let's sort of lead to try to break up the public monopoly in schools. Is that something you see could be coming?
I certainly hope so. I mean, you think about the reaction to COVID-19, of course, the public health part of it, but frankly, the other side of it is the reaction to it and the closures of schools and everything else. You look at people with wildly different views on how that goes. So it's not just about religious expression. It's a whole value system that really is coming into conflict. And so the ability of people to make choices about their school, previously, one of the big things that was top of mind was school safety. So as people wanted to secure schools one way versus another way, there's all kinds of reasons beyond just curriculum to be able to choose. So I think school choice is a big way. But to your point on the frankly, that's the exact point of the free exercise clause. It's one thing to say the school's not going to teach religion, right? They're not going to teach what you should believe about God at a public school. And I think that broadly has support. But it's a different thing to say that my kids can't pray at lunch. I mean, they're going to pray over their meal. They're going to gather with their friends and spend time praying. They're going to gather in a small group to have a Bible study. If you can have other groups that gather to do whatever, why can't they do these things?
Right. John?
And also, the curriculum you mentioned is so important, and I think during this time when many children are at home and the schools are not in session, a lot of parents are learning what's really being taught, and they don't like what they see. And there could be an opportunity for some more radical changes in the schools.
Absolutely, and that's one of the frequently overlooked races is who's the member of the school board. Whether it's at the most basic level or at your state school boards, because a lot of it really is local and state policy. And frankly, one of the wins on federal, since we do have a federal Department of Education, it was great to see them question Princeton after they confessed to systemic racism.
Right.
Say,
we're racist.
This?
We're racist. Well, we'll investigate you.
You've previously attested that you weren't discriminatory, but now it seems you are.
You're an Army veteran. And the president got heat in the last couple months, mostly generated by, I think, lies that somehow he was mean to generals. My opinion is if you get to be a general, you're kind of a big boy or a big girl. They're to go all the way up to be a general, you've got to be a politician too. That's how I see it. But how has the president served the military? He talks about rebuilding it. I think that in many ways he did. But the VA, we're going to have Joe Flynn, General Flynn's brother, who's a very strong advocate of the VA work that the president's done. How do you think the president's done on the military, and how does the media distort what the military thinks of him?
Well, one, I don't believe the statements in the Atlantic article that you're referencing are true. But two, just take my congressman hat off for a second and just talk to you as a veteran,
right,
as an Army Ranger, as a guy who enlisted in the Army after high school, that got the chance to go to West Point, went back and served as an infantry officer. I have no question in my mind which commander-in-chief I would rather have. Donald Trump is a great, decisive commander-in-chief. He takes care of our troops. He literally loves our troops. And in a way, it's the same sort of thing that you see sometimes with unions, right? The rank and file love them.
Right.
It's the leadership that sometimes, we've kind of had things worked out this way. And a lot of the defense establishments, frankly, the same thing Dwight Eisenhower warned against. The military-industrial complex and, frankly, also the scientific-technical elite. We're dealing with a lot of those warnings that Eisenhower put in his farewell address. And Donald Trump has been very decisive on ending endless wars. Frankly, like me, was not a fan of the Iraq War. And when I go back to things why I got out, we had no vision, no strategic, grand strategy that unified our policy after the Cold War. And what happened in the intervening years is essentially John Bolton-style policy to have more wars in more places, which has really left us, less free, less safe, and more burdened by debt.
There's a lot of West Point guys now in positions, aren't there? Do you guys ever have meetings like West Point meetings? I mean, Pompeo and all his top, they're all 87. What class were you?
Well, they're 86, so I'm
86?
95. 86 is. We were at the Army-Navy game, and I'm looking around. It's like 86 is kind of running things right now. They're like, "Oh, your time will come. Your time will come." It's a good school. I was a history major there, and they have a motto that says at West Point, much of the history we teach was made by people we taught. And hopefully that continues to be the case. It's a great program.
Good. John, more thoughts?
Well, my sense of you referred to the endless wars, and the president came in wanting to bring those to an end. And my sense is that he's been beaten back to some extent by the very top brass. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's the civilians at the Pentagon or if it's the four-star officers. I do believe that the president, he hasn't been able to get buy-in from some of those top people in the military for bringing Afghanistan, Syria, and those other countries to an end. What do you think about that?
Well, if you look at the controversy, right? I mean, there are people that object. Look, Joe Biden objected to killing bin Laden. Now, that's how wrong some of these people have been on foreign policy for a long time. There were people that objected to killing General Soleimani, who killed Americans and is responsible for the Iranian proxy wars that have destabilized the Middle East for years, right? So Donald Trump had none of that. You go back to ISIS. When Donald Trump was campaigning in 2016 and took office, they controlled an area bigger than my state of Ohio, right? Today they control zero territory. Still a threat due to their ideology and the jihad that they inspire. But Donald Trump has been a very effective commander-in-chief at that point. And it frankly contradicts what a lot of these people had been saying, and I think it makes them feel vulnerable. They had said the only way to do this is to fight them over there. And they weren't fighting them strategically like Donald Trump did with ISIS. They were sending large mechanized forces to occupy and try to create some kind of democratic republic, Jeffersonian democracy, while people are fleeing the place that we're fighting to secure.
Right. You mentioned off before we started this conversation that I asked you about Ohio, and we talked about how finally, Politico magazine, Politico.com will run articles, and periodically I see it and I say they're trying to explain something they know is happening. And so for a long time they'd say, everybody loves Biden, all the working class loves Biden. They wrote a piece, I think earlier today, maybe yesterday, that said, the union leaders are having a hard time selling Biden to their rank and file. A lot of folks are sticking with Trump. In Ohio, what's Ohio like? I mean, it's not turned. Donald Trump, America First, and all the policies have certainly brought jobs back. Directionally, it's better, but it's still a tough time, right? It's still we don't turn you tell me, you don't turn a aircraft carrier around in a weekend or in a minute. You kind of have to turn it around slower. But what are people in your district that are working folks when they look up, and are some of them transitioning to the Trump party?
Well, absolutely. So when you look at what Donald Trump's done, you just remember when Barack Obama was talking in 2016, critical of Donald Trump, really trying to, and at that time Obama trying to support Hillary Clinton. And he's like, what's he got, a magic wand? And no, he's got good policy. And frankly, for 2 years, the Republican majority helped reinforce that. We got massive regulatory reform. We got tax reform. He made promises that seemed crazy. Oh, we're going to bring those jobs back. But he's delivered on them. And if you look at just take a look at, on the other end, technical, you look at Tim Cook and Zuckerberg. If you look at Cook and Zuckerberg, Facebook and Apple, between the two of them, they brought back nearly $300 billion of cash into America's economy. Now, zero people believe they did that because their good buddy Donald Trump asked them to, right? They did it because it was smart, based on policy reforms that passed. And at the same level, the cash that's coming back into the U.S., you don't see people trying to exit and do inversions and corporate offshoring. Right. It's flooding back into America, and they're hiring Americans. The workers are seeing this. They knew it to be the case. They knew the truth about trade, that China, look, everyone in the world knows that China has been given a special set of rules, negotiated under Bill Clinton's administration, carried out for 2 decades now, and Donald Trump has been the first president to push back on it. And the rank and file people in Ohio love him for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. John?
Well, Ohio, isn't Ohio once called the mother of presidents, elected more presidents than any other state, or at least more Republican presidents than any other state. So Ohio used to be a battleground state, and from what I read, it isn't anymore. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, so it's really not in play this year, and you can tell that Biden has no real presence on the ground. And look, in 2012, my district was considered in a generic ballot to favor a Republican by 12 points, Cook Index R12. In 18, it was considered R15. This year, it's considered R17. I would love to think it's because, my arguments have been so persuasive and everything. The reality is, Ohioans have just looked at what the Democratic Party is doing and said, we're not going to go along with that. We love America. We support our police officers. We're not gonna pretend that boys should play in girls' sports.
Right.
And as the party, the Democratic Party continues to be taken over by far left radicals, overtly, Ohioans are walking away from that and saying, well, let's look at what the other people are offering, and they love Donald Trump.
Warren Davidson, 8th Congressional District, then are they going to redistrict? When they redistrict, they're probably going to knock you down, right?
Well, we'll see. I mean, the state legislature draws it. The people have a lot of input into it. There's a change to the process. We hope we come out fine in it, but it's an honor to get to serve.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for coming in to be with us. Thank you for your service in the military and also in Congress. And, let me finish with a question. I asked you about promise kept. Other through line is, what should our leaders be looking in these next 40 days? How is this looking? What is I know the encouragement, a lot of people say vote, we got that, but what's at stake? What's happening? How do you feel about the next 40 plus days?
The biggest thing, when we went into the minority in the House, I looked through Scripture, and God rarely uses a majority, right? He never needs one. He's God. Right. In the House, we need a majority. So we need people to send reinforcements. And when you look at the courts, highly consequential. I know you just talked to Senator Cruz.
Yeah.
The House doesn't have a voice in this. We keep telling Nancy Pelosi that. This is really something that's going to go on across the House, across the building over there in the Senate. But sound doctrine matters. And I look at examples of that. HB 5, the Democrats, you don't have to speculate about what they believe. That's what they voted on. They proposed the legislation. They voted on the legislation, and it passed. It's radical, just like the Bostock decision. So sound doctrine matters. I keep thinking about 2 Timothy 4:3, but I know we need reinforcements.
Yeah, very good. Well, I hope you'll get them. Well, thank you. Thanks to our Eagle Countdown participants who sent us questions, and keep sending them. We're going to play another Phyllis Schlafly commentary and get ready for our next participant, Eagle Countdown. Thank you, Congressman Davidson. Appreciate it very much. Great to see you. And we'll be back and listen to Phyllis Schlafly on this commentary.